Hello. Hello. Good morning, my friends. How are you? How's it going? Oh, I don't mean to laugh, but if your world is anything like mine, that's a multifaceted answer. How's it going? How's it not going? I don't know. It's going in lots of different ways. There's so many energies in the mix right now. It's intense. It's can feel like a conflict inside of ourselves. And for me, I'm definitely feeling that conflict as like coming off the Aquarius full moon. I'm feeling it like my true nature as opposed to use the Aquarius word, my conditioning, um, my culture, my upbringing, the things that I was taught are true and important. Those things, they leave karmic imprints on us, and they guide us to see the world in a way that sets us up to suffer. Usually, like, nothing is all bad, right? Like every single situation has some good and some bad, and that's kind of what I even want to talk about today. um, is good and bad. Like, is that real? Is it true that there are some words and some actions and some perspectives that are good universally? Like, is that true? Is that real? Is good real? Is bad real? Are there words and actions and perspectives that are bad universally? Maybe you can feel where I'm headed with that, as in, like, when I turn inward and contemplate this for myself, is good and bad real? Is that real, that we can do good or we can do bad? I don't think it's true. I really don't. And I feel like this fits perfectly with the Virgo new moon that we have coming up. The date of the Virgo new moon is August 27th. So here, you know, we got a little ways to go before we get there. Um, but this Virgo new moon that's coming is a rich opportunity. It feels like normally I would say quantum leaps really aren't possible, but this one feels like a bit of a leap forward, a bit of a leap forward towards our true nature and who we really are at our core. And I love Virgo energy. I have my South Node in Virgo. If you've been around, you probably heard me talk about it. It's a blessing and a curse to have heavy Virgo energy, the same as it's a blessing and a curse to carry heavy energy in any of the signs, because they all serve their purpose and they all can kind of like over exaggerate themselves to the point where now that's your South Node and you're coming to balance it out with whatever's on the other side of that. And in my Virgo experience, there is definitely, like, in the shadow side of Virgo, there's a very ingrained idea of what is right and what is wrong, like a strong idea of what is right and what is wrong. And even that, like, isn't wrong. That's not wrong to have some of your own ideas of what is right and what is wrong. For myself, I like to think about those as, what choices would I make in my moment, in my situation? Who am I? And how do I want to show up in the world? Would I make that choice? I'm not necessarily calling it wrong. I'm just saying, does it fit with my own true nature? And sometimes I see people making choices that do fit with my true nature, and it inspires me to want to find more of that and practice more of that inside myself. And then sometimes I see people making decisions where I personally do not think that I would make that same decision. But that still doesn't make the other person wrong. And it doesn't make me right for being the way that I want to be. Basically, like when I when I work with my inner teacher, this is a concept out of the book that I talked a lot about last week, The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck. Um, where she talks about she basically uses the stages from the Divine Comedy, Dante's Inferno and Purgatory and all of this. She uses those stages to talk about finding our way back to our true self. And she calls this being in integrity, not like a moralistic view of integrity, but a view of like all of your parts and pieces are in place and functional and in balance, and you're in structural integrity. And really, she says, like, that is being in alignment with your own true nature. And so, this idea of good and bad, right or wrong, that like there really are no rules like that. There's only in this moment, is this thing right or wrong for me personally? And that's where the inner teacher comes in, where you turn inward and you feel for your own inner sense of guiding your own life. And what is it? What is at the core of your true nature? What does it want? And letting that be the answer that guides it, whether that is right or wrong. Because in this way, there's only what is right for me in this moment and what is not right for me in this moment. And the way that she has you hook up with your inner teacher, I think, is an awesome exercise to just even get a sense of like how to know when you're hearing from your inner teacher and how to know when you're not. Um, so like the first step before we try to meet the inner teacher is to find a thought of I should be different, basically. Like I did this thing that's bad. Like they use the example, like, I shouldn't check my social media before I meditate. And like that's bad. I should do it the other way around. And it's like, okay. So feel in your body, like down anywhere you feel energy move in your body when you think I shouldn't do what I did. I should be different. I'm bad. I don't know about you, but like my heart just like instantly starts beating harder. I start looking around like I'm in trouble. Like it's a tightening feeling. Like I can feel my heart rate rise instantly. It's a stressful feeling to think that I've done something bad. And so okay, so that's the sensation of I should do it different. I should be different. And so we set that to the side, shake it out a little bit. And we take another deep breath. And this one is to feel inside of our body again a different truth, which is I am meant to live in peace. I am meant to live in peace. How does that feel in your body? I am meant to live in peace. For me, it like that tightness that was created in my chest the first time, I could feel it just melting and opening back up to where it was so natural to take a deeper breath because I could feel how my lungs were going to be able to expand more than they just were, and to like let that tension melt off of me. I'm meant to live in peace. That feels true to me in this moment. And so the way that she has constructed this perspective around the inner teacher is you're looking for that place inside of you that relaxes when you hear the truth of your true nature. So I am meant to live in peace. And that relaxed my body. And that especially opened up my chest and my heart. I could breathe more deeply. That's what my inner teacher feels like. The first example where I was thinking I should be different, I should do it different, I shouldn't have done what I did, and it, like, starts to, like, instantly, like, just clench in my chest, like, immediately. Like the quote from Byron Katie, like, "If it hurts you, it's not true for you. Your truth, your inner teacher relaxes your being, opens your being, opens your heart, lets you relax into safety and divine support in this very moment right now." And to think and believe things that are not a match to our true nature causes our system to generate stress. And that's how we know. That's how we know what is headed away from our true nature, AKA away from our inner peace, and what's going to head us towards it. So, Martha gave a really awesome example. Um, what was I listening to where she talked about that? Oh, it's on the live stream prep playlist from, for this week, but she was in, her YouTube video with Elizabeth Gilbert, and they were talking about this and, about the inner teacher, and she gave this story about how she was being called in to testify for, like, one side of a very adversarial lawsuit. She was gonna be, like, an expert witness in this case, and the defense, the other side, was, like, really hammering her in this deposition, and he comes at her like, "You're just an angry woman, and you're just out to get whatever," and she says, "Hang on just a second," and she goes inward to the inner teacher, and she tests the thought, "I'm angry and out to get them. No, no, I'm not. That's not true. That feels like I'm bad. That feels like I've done wrong. That feels like, nope, that's not true. I'm not finding the anger you speak of. What's your next question?" And that's all she said. That's all that needed to be said was, "What you just said is not true. What's your next question?" Again, that feels like it opens me up. It feels like it relaxes me. I don't have to I don't have to show anybody else that I'm good or right. And just because they tell me I'm bad or wrong definitely doesn't make it true. That, like, I have a source of truth inside of me all the time, that I have full undivided attention and access to this inner teacher that is solely there for my benefit, to guide me more and more and more in harmony with my true nature. And so there isn't, again, this is just my belief, this is just where I'm coming to with this contemplation, is like, there isn't right or wrong, there isn't good or bad. There's only, in this moment, turning inward and asking my inner teacher, what is my personal next step towards peace in this situation? Show me what that step is, and I will gladly take it. And what I'm finding is, like, I have so, like, I have a lot of rules in my mind still about right and wrong and good and bad. And I find myself frequently judging other people for doing it wrong, or they shouldn't be like that, or they shouldn't say that to me, or whatever the case. And And every time I think, I'm frustrated with this person because they said this. And now I have like Byron Katie's work in my head where the first question after any thought I think nowadays, which I love, is that true? Is that true? Is that why you're frustrated? Because of what they said? Is that really the problem? This is an exercise that I've been doing to myself. I've been saying it out loud over and over and over to like show myself like how true it really is. Is like, okay, so if I say to you that I'm going to try to remember the words I made up. Let's see. Okay, so if I say to you that if you keep it up with the megaboinks and the coronans and the negative like the negative and the like blah, 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 like it's going to ruin your life. If you keep it up with the megaboinks and the coronans and the it does that hurt your feelings? So much as I say, like, pick out your worst habit, your most destructive habit that you think about yourself. And if I say, like, that habit is going to ruin your life, that most likely gives like a completely different experience because when somebody says something to me that I don't understand, you're using words or language or like meaningless things, right? Like they said words, yes, but it didn't mean anything to me. And so it didn't impact me at all. But if they say something to me that has meaning to me, if they tell me that, for me personally, when I think about like what habit of mine do I beat myself up over the most, and I would probably say drinking alcohol. And if somebody told me like you continuing to drink alcohol is going to ruin your life, I would instantly have a very emotional reaction to that, not because they told me that it's going to happen, but because I believe it to be true. In that moment, I believe that yes, what you just said is true. And because I'm believing it, I'm having some kind of emotional reaction to it. And again, that's where the question is that true? Is me continuing to drink alcohol and do this bad habit, is that going to ruin my life? Is that true? Yes. Okay. So do you absolutely know without any room for doubt that that's true? No. Why? Because what does it even mean to ruin your life? What does that mean? What kind of a picture are you even painting there? Because I guarantee every single one of us sees something different when we think that thought of like, my life is going to be ruined. Every single one of us, that doesn't have meaning apart from what each and every one of us give the meaning to it. So, like, the picture I see in my mind might be I never fulfill my dream of getting to do this. And, I never get to travel again and I never get to blah, blah, blah. Like, that's my life is ruined. Whereas somebody else might picture a tent under a bridge, under an overpass. Like, everybody is going to picture their own thing. And based on what you picture, you're going to have your own response. The things that we choose to believe, like, that is where every single problem that like where anytime I have a problem, the only place it is inside of what I'm believing to be true in that moment. Is that true? Maybe, maybe not, maybe it is. But again, I can go back to my inner teacher and I can test out the thought of, you know, when I change my beliefs, I release myself from suffering. Is that true? It is. I've seen it happen many, many, many times in my world. So is it true that somebody else hurt me and caused me to suffer? Is that true? How do we react when we believe that it is? Again, it's like the tightening in my system to think that other people have power over my suffering. Like, it's not up to me whether I suffer. If they want me to suffer, then I'll suffer. If they want to abuse me, then I'll be the victim. Like, when I believe that thought, I feel like an animal in a cage. I feel angry mostly from where I'm sitting right now. Yeah, it feels like a huge concession of my power to external forces. It does not feel good to think that other people control my suffering. It feels so much better to believe and to like test out the truth inside of myself that I get to control my suffering by choosing what I believe to be true. What other people say to us is not the problem. Whether or not we believe them and we believe that what they're saying is true, that can create a problem. But even so, our inner teacher will always show us this way of like how, like in this moment, what is the right next step towards peace? And sometimes the right next step may be to go into this court case and be an expert witness and like be the voice for this side of this battle. That may be the next step towards peace. If this is kind of how they were testing out the there are no universal truths. Like you say, okay, well, maybe an almost universal truth is you shouldn't hurt people, you shouldn't cause them pain. Okay. Well, the person in front of you, like let's say you're a doctor, the person in front of you's arm or shoulder is like dislocated out of the socket, and putting it back in is going to be extremely painful. So is it true that you shouldn't cause other people pain? No. Because in that situation, the right next step towards peace is to really hurt the other person because it is a step in their healing journey. And that's where I personally like to step back because of how relaxing it feels to acknowledge that every hurt is a step in that person's healing journey. That like when we are hurt by other people, that induces us into a state of suffering, into emotional states that who says that we didn't intend to spend time there? You know, to say like you shouldn't cause people pain or people shouldn't suffer. Is that true? Are you sure that we didn't mean to suffer? Because I'm pretty sure we knew exactly what we were getting into. Human life is suffering. It is access to the full range of possibilities of the full range of the human emotion spectrum. There are such rich, positive experiences available here. And when you're asleep, when you are asleep, believing every thought you think, there is intense suffering. And that the more other people are piling it on and piling it on, or this is what we think is happening, the suffering gets more and more and more and more and more. And like Byron Katie says, and I know this to be true, this is how mine worked. When the suffering becomes intense enough, you'll wake yourself up out of the dream. Like I woke up that morning, like in what I would call rock bottom. Like, I don't want to live. Like, I don't want this life. You can have it. I'm done with it. Give me back one that feels good to live, or I'm out of here. And that was a little over 6 years ago, 6 years ago last month. And I was done suffering. I was done. I'm not going to suffer anymore. And I think the reason all of this ties into the Virgo new moon is Virgo has this ability, this powerful intuition of like basically how I'm going to say this is source energy can see through every single pair of eyes on the planet. Like we as humans, we think that we're looking at it, and maybe we are, right? Is that true? Maybe, maybe on some level our humanness is looking through our eyes. But I will tell you that I also believe that source energy is looking through our eyes, and Virgo energy is the place where we get to experience the difference between when we look at a single situation simultaneously, we see our human perspective of that situation and we see source energy's perspective of that situation, which is to say, all the potential, every ounce of potential that we could take this situation and turn it into something truly magnificent. And source energy can always see that. And the human version of us can always see what is. We walk around seeing what is, and source is seeing what could be. And for those carrying really heavy Virgo energy, meaning you have multiple placements there or points or whatever, it's like your perspective is more equal parts or can sometimes even be like all source, to the point where the human version is such a disappointment compared to what source energy can see is possible. And if you can if you can stay, if you can like use your inner teacher and like relax into how good that possibility feels and how magical it truly is that we can see potential out in the world. Like when you look at a situation and it's like there's the situation and right on top of it is everything that could be. Like you like I was a month or two ago, I was walking through a space that has been many things over many decades, but it's like full of kind of junk right now. But they're in the process of cleaning it out and remodeling it, and they're going to turn it into a grocery store. And she's showing me, like, on this wall, we're going to have this, and back here will be the cash register, and right here's the deli case. And I could see it. I could see it. I'm looking at piles of junk, but I can see a shiny, lit up deli case with like beautiful little, like, I could see it. And that is such a gift. That's such a beautiful ability to have a perception of what could be. And especially if you have a relationship with your inner teacher amidst all of that. Because again, it's like from the human perspective, it's easy to say it should be like that. And that's not what that higher perception is for at all. It's more like the North Star as far as you don't really ever get there. It more guides you on the direction of inspired to do a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more and move in that direction. Virgo energy at its core is stone cold honesty about what is compared to what could be. It's it's a beautiful energy that basically allows our planet and our species and just our overall trajectory as creatures that exist. Virgo is continuous improvement because it's literally where heaven or source or the perfect ideal, which is only ever a non-physical idea, compared to the human physical level, it's like by showing us that, we just keep moving towards it more and more and more and more and more. And so Virgo energy is like an engine for continuous improvement, for growth, for all of this. But at the same time, like it never shuts off. It is a horizon that you will never get to. And there can be like a particular way of understanding it that says like it should be the perfect way. It should be the perfect ideal already, or my expectations are that I'm going to do it like this, and you're only seeing the source energy version. And it's like you can shoot for that, but on the front end, let's go ahead and set ourselves up for success by acknowledging that's not going to happen. My human version is going to look different, But that's where, the opposite end of Virgo is Pisces. The sister sign of Virgo is Pisces, and Pisces is what balances that Virgo energy. And with Pisces, there is total acceptance for what is. There's nothing but universal love, which Maddie so eloquently said universal love is loving everything in the universe equally. So nothing has ever gone wrong, according to Pisces. Virgo, on the other hand, is over here looking at these two sets of realities where nothing is ever right, basically. Nothing is ever good enough. Most of all, us. But it's not true. Test it in your system. How does it make you feel? How do you react to the idea I'm never good enough? It makes me want to cry, like almost instantly, like, that's not true. That's so not true. Whew, get it out. I'm always good enough. Oh, yeah, there. I'm always good enough because there is no such thing as good enough. I'm good because I am. I'm good because that's my true nature. These thoughts relax me. My inner teacher says, yes, yes, yes. And then this is a fun little kind of offshoot of this idea of like, being able to feel our inner teacher is one thing. That's definitely a step along the journey. Being able to feel the difference between believing something that clenches my body up and believing something that causes my body to relax. And I can feel how moving between different thoughts and believing, I'm never good enough to I'm always good enough, like I can feel the difference of that in my system. And once you can feel it, you're well on your way, absolutely. But the next stop along the journey is being able to trust it because putting you in touch with your inner teacher like that in the way of integrity, which again, I highly recommend this book. I'm still working my way through it. I have just a little bit left, um, by Martha Beck. But as you hook up with your inner teacher, that's really like only the beginning of getting to paradise, which is kind of the end of the journey as she is putting it, and that's what it feels like. Paradise is just what it feels like when you're living out of your true nature and not rejecting that nature or abandoning that nature in favor of following your culture. So once you've brought all of your actions and choices and words and time back into alignment with your true nature, that's how she defines paradise. So the inner teacher is there to help us figure out in any moment what is true for us right now. Not what is true for everybody, not what is universally true, not even what is universally true for ourselves. Because, you know, somebody says, like, hey, do you want to get on the phone and talk to me? And the instant answer is no. That, again, it doesn't mean no, never. It just means no, not right now. How about we rain check it for a month and then see if we want to get on the thing? Like, because maybe someday they do ask and the answer is yes, let's get on there right now. And I think when the answer is yes, well, I guess there is no universal truth. It really does depend on the situation of like yes or no or whatever. But like in that situation of somebody wants to get on the phone with us and our instant body reaction says no. The thought of getting on the phone with them causes like instant clenching. I think a really common thing is to wonder if, like, is that my intuition? Is that my body? Or is that my fear? And I'm letting myself be held back by my fear and like trying to figure out our impulses and our energy and how to read our energy. Like basically we're sitting at these giant controls of all of these little screens of all of this like sensation and messages and thoughts and feelings and body pains and pleasures and all kinds of shit. And we're trying to figure out what does it all mean? And that's why I personally think like the inner teacher is so helpful because you'll know what's true for you when your body relaxes. You'll know you found it. And until then, you're not believing your own whole truth. You've got somebody else's something in there that's causing the tension, right? The tension only comes, this is my own personal belief, this is what I've tested as true in my system. The tension is coming not from the other person or the situation, even. The tension is coming from what I believe about the situation. So there's even like a, you know, like a getting even clearer on what is it about getting on the phone with the person in this example? What is it about that that you're afraid of or that is causing the tension? Like when your body says no, what is it that's causing that? And I would say, I guess, back up a step and say that, like, for me, when my body says no, I instantly try to honor that as far as, like, my inner child. Like, I was a very shy child. I remember one situation in particular where my mom took all of us to go see Santa Claus, and such a silly example, but, like, basically, they wanted me to show him that, like, I had lost, like, my 2 front teeth or whatever, because like, the song, the Christmas song, like, "All I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth," and they thought it was funny, and they, like, put me on the spot and, like, wanted me to show him, and I just, like, did not want this, like, absolutely, like, "Stop looking at me, like, everybody is, like, trying to, like, make me the butt of the joke in this moment," and it is I don't even remember why I'm telling this story now. I'm, like, lost in the how rotten that felt to be told, like, "You have to do this, you have to come on, like, it's funny and, like, we have to show him," and I just every single picture that they took of me, like, I am, like, clamping my mouth shut so tightly so nobody could see, and the only reason that they wanted me to was, again, I thought so that they could, like, make fun of me. Why am I telling this? The hell was my point? I went into it with something. Oh, it was right on. Do you wanna know how I know that? Because it happened. That's how I know that. Mhm. Mm. This week, man, feels like so much time has passed since last Friday. Like, last Friday feels like a lifetime ago almost. Like, I'm, like, almost like a whole different version of me than I was 7 days ago, which is not ever entirely true, right? Like, we only ever make, like, incremental changes, and those incremental changes, they add up, and sometimes they're slightly bigger increments than other times, and yeah, this last week has been a lot of full circle moments and getting to see the utter rightness of everything that I went through, the good, the bad, the ugly. Like, every time I thought life had wounded me, how those wounds were already there. Like, people saying things to me that were awful, and me carrying around this story for 25 years about how they shouldn't have said that to me, and then coming to the understanding and realizing that the only reason that was so devastating was because I was already afraid it was true, and them saying it felt like confirmation of what I already believed. So who hurt who? You know? Like, they didn't put that wound there. They reflected it back to me. It was already there. Letting so many people and events off the hook, like letting them literally be different. Like, I forget which one of them said this. Oh, Byron Katie said it about forgiveness. Forgiveness is not what most people think. It's not letting go of anything. It's understanding that what you think happened didn't happen. And that's like this situation where 25 years ago somebody said something awful to me, and I've been blaming that person for making me think that it was true. And now I see one, it was never true, but two, I believed it first. I believed it first, and then when they said it, that was where the devastation came from, was in me now having physical evidence of what I already knew to be true. And that's where shame comes from, is believing what happened was true, believing that you deserved it, believing, when somebody says you're awful, you believe them. That feels terrible. But if they say you're awful and you're like, yeah, okay. No, I'm not, but whatever. Like, you laugh it off and you know it's not true. It doesn't cause suffering. Their words didn't ever cause me suffering. What I thought was true about myself, like, same thing in 7th grade when I, got bullied or whatever for my 7th grade year. And I was so mad at those kids for being so mean to me. And the only reason they kept doing it was because I was being mean to me. I was already telling myself how ugly I was before they started telling me. So, yeah, ugly inside and out. That was me back at like age 12. And that's what I thought about myself and that's what the world was reflecting to me. But I believed it first. And now, like, there feels like two sides of like emotion management. There's like the side when, like, the ebb and flow almost of like when the tide comes in and the waters are high and like, ooh, it's like if you can just like cope, if you can just like not resist the resistance in that moment of like intense emotions and like everything is on top of you and I'm struggling and whatever. Like, in that moment, you're just trying to survive. You're just doing your best and trying to give yourself mercy as much as you possibly can, which is to say, like, just to not fight the resistance that's there, to say, well, I guess I'm in resistance today. I guess today I'm going to lay in the bed and cry. That's where I am. Okay. I'll do that until I get a better idea. Good deal. Um, yeah. And then there's this other side of proactivity, I guess I want to say. Like, not really. Like, it's more like when the noise is quieter, when you're able to find and carve out little spaces of time for yourself where there can be quiet and you can feel for this inner teacher, you can feel for your own resonance, you can feel for your own inner peace and relaxation. And you can practice knowing for yourself what's true. So it's like sometimes when you're in the middle of the suffering, and it's like, what do I do if I can't find my inner teacher? Hug yourself. Hold on. It'll be over soon. It's temporary, right? Like, sometimes we can't find our inner teacher. Sometimes there is only suffering. Just because it's not real doesn't mean we don't do it. Oh, we do it plenty. We suffer plenty. Waking nightmares, basically, a lot of times, where we show ourselves these images and these pictures in our minds, and then we believe that they're true, and then we have all kinds of emotional reactions to them. But it's amazing how just even asking yourself, is it true, can give you enough space to basically do what Byron Katie says is like, you see past that initial option into other options that don't include suffering. Like, I had this example the other day where, again, I was already feeling guilty. I had this like work thing and I was supposed to like set up my email and I hadn't done it yet and I was feeling like behind and like I should have done it already, right? Should have, like, I want it to be different. Here I am like harassing myself basically like, you should have done it already. And so that's already what was going on. And I wasn't really acknowledging it because I was telling myself like divine timing, like I'll do it when I do it. Like, it'll be fine. Um there's nothing serious going on here. So I was like kind of like having both of these sides of myself kind of go back and forth. And then I get an email that says, like, my work person, it says like, I was hoping that you would have had access to SharePoint by now. But that's okay. I've attached it here. And instantly my face got hot, my stomach flipped, My Oh gosh, like, I just, like, felt so tense, I felt sick, I felt like she's disappointed in me, I messed it up, like, I ruined it, I'm throwing off the timeline, the team is having a harder experience because of me and what I'm doing, like, it was so fast how quickly I hung myself up on the cross of, like, "You should have been in SharePoint by now. How dare you not be in SharePoint by now?" Yeah. I didn't notice the thoughts. What I noticed was how tight my body felt, how sick I felt, how like clenched up and twisted up and knotted up I felt. And instantly in that moment, because of the practice that I've done when it's quiet and easy, finding my inner peace and finding my inner relaxation when it's quiet and easy for a few minutes a day, every day, then I get this email and I run away with all these stories of you shoulda, you shoulda, you shoulda. And I feel my body's reaction and it like is literally making me feel sick. And I recognize that's not inner peace and relaxation. That's not even close. What must I be believing that isn't true? And so I ask myself, wait, like, is it all true? I should have done it already. I Is that true? And I'm like, "Wait, but how can you know? How can you know that that's true?" And then I got the idea, "Oh, wait a second, it's not even me. It's not even me that messed up." It's like nobody messed up for one thing, but like for two, it was the IT department that was gonna grant me that access. So when she says it should have happened already, or I was hoping that it was gonna happen already, it's not even me taking the action. And yet here I am, like, putting it all on myself, like, I just messed everything up. And I laughed out loud for, like, a couple minutes of, like, "Look what I did." Like, again, your thoughts and what you believe create your own suffering. I'm like, "Yes, I just did it. I ran away so fast with 'This is my fault. Oh my god, I messed up. She's mad at me.'" And when I realized it's not true, it's not even true, like, my whole body just relaxed. And I was like, "Oh, that feels so much better. Oh, yes, there we go. It's just not true. You didn't even do anything." And then I reread what she wrote, and she said, "I was hoping it would have happened already." Like, she didn't say you. She didn't say you should have done something different. She said, "I was hoping." She's just talking. She's just saying what's true for her. And I took the blame and I put it squarely on my own shoulders. I did that, not her, me. And so in that moment, I was the cause of my own suffering and I unraveled my own suffering, like all within the span of like 5 minutes. It was absolutely magical. And I did it by recognizing how awful my physical body felt. My normally very relaxed and easy flowing body felt like it was not good. Did not feel good at all. Um, but so that moment was really profound because the rest of the day unfolded, right? That was like almost first thing in the morning. And several hours later, I had a meeting with those people where I'm going to get on a Zoom with the person who sent me the email, who I thought was mad at me. And we're going to have this meeting. But like I had undone it, right? Like it's not true. It wasn't me who was supposed to do it, it was them. So she's just letting me know that she was hoping that it would have happened already. But that's okay. All good. And so I get on the Zoom and we have our meeting and I get in my email, I get that all caught up and like all good. And I'm driving home from my brother's house where I use the internet. And I'm driving home and it clicks in my mind that when I got in my email, the email where it was absolutely me who was like not getting in the email. So I get in the email and then I was able to click on links to go into SharePoint, and I realized in that moment, it is me. It was me. It was me who, like, hadn't done what they needed to do, but by then, I had already been on the Zoom with her. We had had an awesome meeting between all of us. I got to meet several new people. We kicked off like a different part of the project. Like it was so good and so fun. And I got to show up as like a clean slate of I love my work and I love the people that I get to do it with. And like, there's no ill will in the space at all. I knew that going into it. I could feel it in the time that we spent together. And then when I recognized by the like after the meeting was over and I'm on my way home and I recognized it was my fault, it didn't feel bad at that point. It didn't feel like pure dread, like, "Oh my god, she's mad at me, and how am I ever gonna, like, get through this, and now I'm dreading seeing her because she's mad at me, and she's probably gonna be sassy, and she's gonna say passive aggressive things to me." Like, these are all stories that I make up in my mind when I think somebody's mad at me. I turn them into a monster, and then I can't face them because they're a monster. Is that true? No, no, and this, like, even though it was technically true, like, that initial, that initial, like, "Oh my gosh, I've messed it up." Is that true? For the first stretch of the morning, I was able to, like, let it go enough to see into another reality where it wasn't true, where it was somebody else who was doing the thing, and I lived in that reality long enough to go through the meeting with, like, my pure open heart, how I feel when I'm, like, in my true nature, and by the time I got to the end of it, I was able to acknowledge, like, okay, so she was saying she hoped it would have happened sooner, but it didn't, and all is well, and we're moving on with our lives. Like, if I had continued to believe it first thing in the morning, I would have suffered clear up until and probably through that meeting and probably afterwards thinking like she's mad at me. And if that's what I went into that meeting with, she's mad at me, I would have seen in the meeting where she would have shown me evidence of being mad at me. Like one example, there at the very beginning of the meeting, the guy that we were getting up to speed asked for an overview of the project. And as he was talking and asking, I was like so nervous because I was like, God, I'm gonna butcher this. And I'm just was not looking forward to giving this overview because it's just a newer project, and so, yeah, I was like, "It's not gonna sound very pretty, but I'll do my best," right? And then when he finally finished talking, the woman that I had this interaction with, she jumps in and she's like, "I'll go, and then, like, Carly, you and Erica can add to it," and so she gives like a really long in-depth version of the project overview, and while I'm sitting there listening to her do that, I am so grateful. I'm so grateful that she's doing it and I'm able to notice like how good of a job she's doing. And I felt like I even got like a little bit better of an understanding of the project listening to her do that. And I was just so grateful that she did it and I didn't have to do it because I didn't feel fully up to it. But I think if I had gone into the meeting thinking she's mad at me, there would have been more wanting to prove myself, wanting to do a good job, wanting to win her back over. And when she did the project overview instead of me, where I'm like the leader of the project or whatever, I probably would have been offended. I probably would have felt like, see, she doesn't think I can do it. She doesn't think I can do a good job. Like, and then she just jumped in and like did it instead of me. While I didn't wanna do it. I didn't wanna do it, I was so grateful that she did it. And so, yeah, it's like, even even if it's true, like, let's say, like, okay, in that moment, she is slightly disappointed because she was hoping that it would have happened already. Is it true that it's my fault? By the end of all that story, technically, yes, kind of, if you believe that one person can cause somebody else's disappointment. Yes, I was the one that was holding up the process that she was hoping would have moved faster. Even if it's true though, is it really worth suffering over? Like, do you really have to suffer even if it's true? And again, like suffering is coming from believing the thought. So even if something is true, do you have to believe that it's true? No. Like I did, I found room for doubt because I needed a reality where it wasn't my fault, because the reality where it was my fault, there was only suffering. So I wanted out of my suffering. So my mind questioned itself until it found a place where I could hang out where there was no suffering for me. Talk about self compassion. Even if it's true, do you have to suffer over it? I don't think so. My inner teacher says no. If you want to suffer, you can suffer over anything you want. But if you don't want to suffer, you don't have to. There are different ways of believing what's true that will let you out of your own suffering if you are ready to be done with your own suffering. And that is not to realizing that, like, I mean, I can only offer what I offer, but I do hope that no one takes my words and uses it as like one more way that you're messing it up, like, oh, so it's my fault that I'm suffering and now I'm just like messing it up even more. Like, I really hope that that's not what happens, that, this isn't just like one more way to beat up on yourself because you are suffering, but to recognize, like, when our body is tense, when we are in suffering, that there is something in there, like a thorn in our paw, that does not match our true nature. And so some of it could be true, some of it's not true. And I think, kind of going back to that example of like creating a world where I could escape suffering, where the truth didn't make me suffer. Um, I lost my train of thought. I think, like, in that situation, the part that was factual was it was my delay, which was kind of delaying her timeline. But the deeper part that I don't think I realized until right now is that what I was believing in the very first part when I was suffering was more than just it's my fault that I'm slowing her down. It was like I believed that this had made her mad at me, that she would think less of me. And I had to get myself out of the whole thing because I couldn't see in the moment of the suffering, like, the granular level of beliefs of, like, it's not just that I slowed her down, but I believe that she's mad and I believe that she likes me less as a result of this or whatever. And by the time I came back around to the truth, then again after the meeting, it was like there was no doubt in my mind that there's no way she's mad at me. There's no way she thinks less of me. Like, she loves me. I love her. Like, that we love working together. So, like, by the end of the meeting, I was so positive in the truth of, like, the good relationship that we have, and to realize that I did slow it down, but now there wasn't these other pieces to it of, and she's mad at me and she's going to like me less as a result. So there are so many moments. I mean, I would imagine most moments in our days where our knee-jerk reaction or response to something is a whole story that, like, pictures and movie that runs through our head that we just take as fact, the whole thing. And it takes so much time, and not time, it takes patience, I think, and practice to, like, kind of tease it all apart between, what is actually true that may not be causing me suffering. Like, slowing her down doesn't make me suffer. Believing that she likes me less, that thought definitely made me suffer. So there were multiple parts to it. But again, it's like I didn't even get this level of clarity on it until days later while I let myself escape the suffering. Let me shut my door real quick. Hello? I'm almost done. My brothers are so awesome for letting me use their internet. Um, yeah, this is a practice. Like Byron Katie says, this is absolutely a practice of just a different way of relating to our thoughts, where we don't just automatically accept that they're true. We put them through the test of, does our inner teacher agree that this is true? And again, you'll know that your inner teacher agrees when your body relaxes. So, like she says, Byron Katie says about the work, it's a meditative practice. It's a practice in getting still within yourself where you can feel your, what I would normally call resonance. I mean, inner teacher, I feel like is just kind of another word for resonance, but um, where you can feel not what's right or wrong for the collective or a single other soul, but what's right or wrong for you in this moment right now. Because that's really all we ever are, is in this moment right now. So as long as we know what's true for us in the moment, we're good to go, right? And it kind of like works pretty well, I think, to practice within ourselves. And I think as we go, we start to develop this questioning nature where our thoughts are subject to scrutiny and other people's opinions of us are subject to scrutiny. It's very interesting how now when somebody says okay, so let's say somebody says something to me that starts with "you should." My first response is that true? I should do that? I should feel better? I should do that? I should do anything? Is that true? Like, what they said doesn't matter. Me believing it's true is the only thing that matters, or not, you know? And so there's so much freedom in this. I feel like there is a level of inner peace that I have found in this last week or two that is new territory for me personally, a new level of detachment from my own self-judgment and what I perceive to be the judgment of others, which is only ever a reflection of my own self judgment. Um, yeah, radical self acceptance, radical acceptance of what is, because it is. You know, there's room to not suffer no matter what is going on around us, inside of us. There's a place where we merge back together with our true nature, with our higher self, and yeah, in my body, it melts every layer of tension in an instant. Even if that tension comes back later, for that little moment in time, my well being is so dominant that there's no question how true it is, how okay I really am, how well my reality really is. So it's it's not something I expect to like just stay in inner peace forever or anything like that, but it's wild how abbreviated my suffering has become with even only a couple weeks of practice, simply because I'm willing to see past the option of suffering into a version that doesn't cause me suffering. And that's where I think, like, especially Virgo energy, there can be um, a deep sense of wanting to be of service, wanting to like add value to the world, wanting to do good for other people. And because we can see this split version of reality between what is and what source energy can see, or like the full potential of this moment, um, we tend to use that perspective on ourselves. And because we're not, living up to our full potential in any moment, then we think like, oh, well, we're not doing good enough. And like now I deserve to be beat up and I deserve to be told like I'm failing and not doing enough or whatever. And it's that believing that we deserve it. It's someone saying that you're ugly on the inside only hurts if you believe that that's true. And yeah, I have enough experience with believing bad things about myself that then somebody tells me, and it hurts me a lot that they think that. And then I spend a long time suffering over the fact that they think bad things about me. And it's like we can ease that ourselves simply by questioning our own beliefs around ourselves and what we think is true about ourselves. Like, if I think I'm ugly on the inside, that's something else entirely. that's again like back in my court as far as like I can dig into that. I can go to therapy. I can, exercise my demons and figure out, why do I believe that? Why? The fact that somebody else believes it, I can't do anything about that. That's none of my business. That's like, maybe I'll leave that for next time. I'm gonna go through the chat a little bit and hang out for a little bit longer before I wrap this up. So if you have any thoughts or questions or anything that you would like to leave in the chat, I'm gonna start back at the top. Oh, it's so good to have you guys here with me. Mm, yeah. I'm so grateful that you guys find relief in what I offer. I have I've been practicing like these last couple weeks, like this whole idea of there is no good or bad. Like I've spent so much time like, preparing for these live streams, for example, preparing for lots of things because I want to make it as good as it can be. I want to make it good. And then this idea comes up like I can make it good. Is that true? I don't think so. I think it's going to be whatever it needs to be. And that is so far beyond what I personally have control over. So, is it up to me to try to prepare something magical to make this good? If it's not even real that I can make it good, then what am I supposed to prepare? My higher self's like, what if you prepared nothing? What if you just showed up with your breath and the you that you are and be that? What if you did that? Oh, okay. So I tried that last week. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna just, do my morning time like I always do. And when I get on there, I'll say whatever comes through. And so this morning is my second attempt at preparing nothing and just speaking what is true for me in this moment and what energy is present within me at this moment. And I think, like, more than anything else, where I'm at right now is like having found such massive relief these last couple weeks in giving up this idea of good and bad, that like I can even make it good or I can even be good, that that's a target that even exists. I personally believe it does not. And I have spent so much of my energy trying to hit it. And that's okay because that led me on the exact life that I meant to have. But I also meant to give that up. And I did this like last couple weeks. And so when I thought about, this morning in the hour or so before I started this, what is it that I truly want to come out of this live stream? And I want to spread this sense of inner peace. I want to spread this idea of this inner teacher and listening for the relaxation of your own body in not judging anything or anyone by, and most of all yourself, by right or wrong, you should have, you shouldn't have, but to again listen for what relaxes your body, what feels like truth for you in this moment, not somebody else. Not, nobody can do this for us. Like, only we can relax into our own stillness and feel what's true for ourselves. So, yeah, I wanted, especially coming up on this Virgo new moon, Virgo can be extremely self critical, again, because of the magical ability to be able to see what source sees. We can judge ourselves very harshly for failing to live up to that standard. But again, there's this idea in Virgo, this perfectionism, this idea of it's not good enough yet, it's not good enough yet, where I felt like a whole wing of my personality dissolve in this sense of that's not true. Good enough is an illusion that doesn't even exist because good doesn't even exist. It's not real. I am inherently worthy because I exist. I test that in my system every day and it feels true to me. It relaxes my body. I am meant to live in peace. The relief I get off of that one every time relaxes my body. There is no such thing as good enough. There is only right here, right now, and accepting what is. And most of what we have to accept is ourselves because, again, going full circle, like it's never about what's going on in the world around us. It's only ever what we believe to be true about whatever it is that we're choosing to witness at that time. So Uta says, whenever I should on myself, it brings up my inner resistance and basically becomes a stalemate. We can't win. Like, again, should is one of those things that, I mean, anytime I see the word should, instantly, is that true? Where do you get this idea of I should do this, I should do that, I should be more like that, I shouldn't be more like that? What does that even mean? Where does that come from? If not the culture? Because the true nature just is. It's a baby. It's like just pure instinct. It's I'm hungry, so I'm crying. Like that's the true nature is survival and thriving and rest and nourishment. That's our true nature. It just is. So as soon as you start talking about should anything, you're back in the illusion. You're asleep and you're dreaming. And you're causing your own resistance with that line of self talk that is setting you up for suffering because there will never be an end to that. You can say, I should be thinner, and then you lose weight and you look in the mirror and you say, I'm still fat. How is that possible? Oh, I should tone my muscles. I should start working out and then I'd be more toned. And then you look in the mirror and you say, yeah, maybe my body's okay, but my face is still ugly. I'm speaking from personal experience. If I lost 50 pounds and I looked in the mirror and I said, I'm still fat. I toned my body and I had muscles and I said, yeah, but my face is still ugly. Talk about somebody who believes they deserve to suffer. No matter what I did, I was never good enough for myself. And that is what's changed. Is like when you relax into your true nature, there's only what is. There's only what is right now in this moment. And sometimes that's resistance and sometimes it's free flowing energy. And either way, we can accept it. Either way, we can embrace ourselves and ask ourselves, to open up to the possibility that maybe there are some beliefs that we're holding in our mix that are causing this suffering. And that means that maybe there's a version of reality or a version of the way I'm looking at this that would not cause me suffering. As soon as we start engaging in that process, I feel like we've won because we haven't blamed it on something outside of ourselves. As long as it's inside of us, we can do something about it. That's an empowering thought as far as like, if I'm causing this, that means I can unravel it. That's cool. That's good to know. Oh. Mm. Shay says, I'm often thinking that others are mad at me if they respond differently than I'm used to. I think I'm always doing or saying things wrong. I get it. I totally get that. And that's like, it's possible to go back into our early life and find like where were we conditioned to think that we're wrong and bad and like I mean yes we can do that but at the same time it doesn't really matter who conditioned us to believe these things about ourselves because it's possible like I was saying like did that person tell me I'm ugly inside or did they just confirm what I was already thinking about myself. um And yeah, there's a whole world of contemplation that we can do when we consider other people. But if we narrow in on what do I believe? Do I believe when I think I'm doing it wrong? Like if we sit in our quiet and in our stillness and we relax and then we think the thought, I'm doing it wrong. I'm saying the wrong thing. How do you react? How does your body feel? What thoughts and images are going through your mind? I'm doing it wrong. There's pressure for sure on that's what I feel mostly is the pressure of I should be doing it right. I should be getting this right. And I'm not, I'm doing it wrong. And so not only am I not doing it or I'm doing it wrong, I'm not doing it right. Like it's a like a pressure that I would feel on myself in that moment. And so same thing, then we think, okay, so flip it around, turn it around, like I'm not doing it wrong. How does that feel? You could say, I'm doing it right. How does that feel? And it's not about arguing with the stories in your head because they are what they are. They're going to come and they're going to go as they do. But feeling in your stillness for your inner teacher. When you think a thought, how do you react? When you believe I'm doing it wrong, or you believe that I'm doing it right, like this is where we can get even deeper into the fabric of reality by questioning things like is it true that there's even a right and a wrong? Is there such thing as getting it wrong? Is it even possible? I don't think so. I that's the theory that I'm testing at this point in my reality is that good and bad doesn't exist. That there is only ever what is good for me in this moment and what is not good for me in this moment. What gets me closer to peace in this moment and what takes me further away. That's all. And what other people think, it's easy to say I shouldn't care what other people think about me. And I've used that in my past to as like one more thing that I was doing wrong. Of like, you're caring what other people think of you again. Like you shouldn't do that. And then I'm just like, again, shooting on myself, like with one more thing. But like to get underneath it, to get bigger than it and say like, is that even possible? Like I practice and have been practicing my beliefs around like divine timing for years. And this idea that everything is always working out for me. And even when things on the surface might look like they are going wrong, good can still come out of it. And the way that it all unfolds is well being is dominant, that there isn't anything that is wrong or off track. And that again, like relaxes my body. It takes the pressure away of like having to get it right. Like if there is no right or wrong, there's no pressure to get it right. It doesn't exist. So I am very, very new to practicing this specific piece around like Byron Katie's work, like asking, is it true? Is that true? But yeah, there's a lot of false beliefs that I still carry that cause me those moments of suffering. But like I said, like already with just even a couple weeks of practicing this, there is so much more space to entertain such a bigger variety of options, some of which make me suffer and some of them do not. So there's there's such like fast growth available when we start questioning our thoughts, I feel like. For example, I received a surprise email today from a friend I haven't heard from in months. All this time, I was thinking I said something wrong and that they didn't like me anymore. That turned out to be very far from the truth, but my imagination always makes it my fault. Exactly. Your imagination. I highly recommend. So, on this week's live stream prep playlist, there are uh, lots of Byron Katie videos of her doing the work on various subjects. And so you can listen to her talk about um, exactly what goes on as far as like the images, like the imagined pictures that you see in your brain, and how basically when we're believing the dream, when we're believing this imagined version in our head, that that is exactly where all suffering on the entire planet comes from. No suffering exists outside of what we do to ourselves with our own imagination. And so when you're suffering, when you are inside a thought that says, it's my fault, I hurt them, I shouldn't have said that, you're like replaying the last conversation, trying to find what you did wrong, feel how that feels in your body. It hurts. God, it hurts for you to be wrong like that. And in that sign of it hurting like that is the answer of something in here is not true. That hurting, that suffering, that uncomfortable feeling is what wakes you up to noticing the movie inside your mind that you're showing yourself. That like the movie in this moment in time that you're suffering is mean to you. So you can believe it if you want, right? Like we all have free will all the time. If you want to suffer, you can suffer. But if you don't want to suffer, if you want something different, like this is the practice of like in this example of you think the thought, my friend is mad at me because I must have said something wrong. Doing the work on that, it sounds like, is that true? And it's not a quick answer because we're doing our meditative practice where we sink into ourselves and into our stillness, and we rethink the thought, my friend is mad at me because I must have said something wrong. Is that true? Yes, I think it's true. Okay. Second question. Can you know without a shadow of a doubt that that is true? No, I can't. They didn't say that they were mad at me. I don't know what they're thinking. I have no clue what they're thinking. Okay? So when you think the thought, my friend is mad at me, how does it feel? It hurts. I feel bad. I feel sick to my stomach. Like I probably did something wrong. I feel tight in my chest. Like, are they ever going to talk to me again? It feels awful. Okay. Okay. So just be with that. Doesn't feel good. My friend is mad at me. And then we turn it around. My friend is not mad at me. Is that true? It's just as true as the other one, given that we have no idea what the friend is thinking. So it's like that. It's like, can we open up to a reality where it's not our fault? This is like, can we accept our own inherent goodness? And if not, can we at least accept that there are some thoughts that cause my body to go into like instant lockdown and stress and sickness? And there are some thoughts that feel like my heart opening wider than it's ever opened before. And doing this work, doing this meditative practice of self inquiry is about parsing out the beliefs that you're holding that are only in there because somebody else put them there, compared to who is the true nature that you were born to be, who is the soul, the higher self, the whole self, your wholeness. Who is that? And when you think thoughts that get closer and closer to that true nature, your body will relax more and more and more. And when you take steps away from your true nature for whatever reason, doesn't matter, you will suffer more and more and more. And when the suffering is too much, you will wake yourself up. And none of it is wrong. Every minute of feeling good is right on time. And every minute of feeling bad or overwhelmed or like we're suffering is also right on time. And in the work, she asks you to think about like examples for why why that may be true. So like in Shay's example, the turnaround was my friend isn't mad at me. How could that be true? What are some examples? Well, my friend regularly takes their time responding and finds the time that works best for them. So maybe they're not mad at me. Maybe they're just, really busy in their world and they have a lot going on and they're going to come back to me in the divine timing. To find examples of how the opposite thing could also be true and to, again, sit with those options and see how they feel. Like in that situation, to me, it would feel better to give your friend the benefit of the doubt and to not make them into the aggressor in your story. Um, I know I've done this to many people. Like I said, like I mean, in that email situation that I had, it was like she's mad at me and she's gonna like be passive aggressive. And I mean, I was like projecting all of this onto her, turning her into a total monster, which she has never been to me. I don't know, who knows what she's doing in her personal life, but like to me, she's nothing but lovely. And I told this whole story about how she's gonna treat me. Again, not because that's what I think of her, but more like that's what I believe about what I deserve to receive. Like this is what I'm talking about with like a mixture of beliefs, right? Like a set of beliefs sounds kind of like puzzle pieces and like you can put all the puzzle pieces together and they all snap together and there's just perfect little locking edges and my beliefs aren't like that at all. It's like I have some beliefs in there, like divine timing brings about all things in perfect timing. And then I have some beliefs like you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have made them feel bad. You shouldn't have corrected them. You shouldn't have I mean to think any of those things, to believe that any of that is true goes in direct conflict with divine timing brings about all things in the perfect time. So this is what I'm talking about. That's just one example of the ways that beliefs can contradict each other and can butt heads and can leave us feeling confused about what's real and what's true. But again, that's where knowing what's true is not a job for our head, it's a job for our body. Our body will never lead us astray when it comes to knowing what your own personal truth is. It feels like relaxation. It feels like ease and contentment. It feels like your higher self wrapping its arms around you. It feels like total connection and that all is well in the world. In your true nature, without any of the thoughts that you're thinking or believing, like in this moment right now, for example, without your thoughts, you're perfectly fine in this moment. If you weren't, you wouldn't be sitting here watching a YouTube video. You'd be running for your life, right? So, like, without the thoughts, all is well. Without the illusion, the dream, the waking nightmare sometimes, like without the imagined picture in our mind, all is perfectly well. But there's no getting rid of that illusion. There's no getting rid of that perfect version of things. Like that's where we started with like source energy is always looking through your eyes too. And you can always see how it could be a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better because we're creatures of continuous improvement. That's always going to be there. That's never going away. But just because it's fun to improve, it's fun to learn new skills, it's fun to find our truth more and more and more. And it's fun to let ourselves off the hook of suffering more and more and more. That doesn't mean that anywhere that we are is not exactly where we're meant to be, that we're not good enough in this moment because there's still room to grow. That's always going to be true. That's why we're always good enough already because it's never going to be an end to like the better that we can become. There's always more. And that's why, we start off good enough, we're good enough the whole time, we end good enough no matter what we did while we were here. It's easy on that front. There's no measurement, there's no reward system, there's no like, other than are you letting yourself live in peace in this moment? Or are you insisting that you deserve to suffer in this moment? And if you believe you deserve to suffer, I would ask you to ask yourself, is that true? And if it feels like it is, then sit in some more stillness with, can you absolutely know that it's true, that you deserve to suffer? I would think the answer would be no, but again, that's not my work. In my work, the answer is no. In your work, the answer may be yes. We're all doing our work and we're all at different places along the journey. We're all working on finding it from different angles and like setting ourselves up with different obstacles. And like, still, I think kind of all paths lead to basically the same thing, leading back to unconditional love and acceptance. Like the Pisces, the 12th zodiac sign, the culmination of all things is unconditional love and acceptance, merging back with our divine nature, where there is only unconditional love and acceptance. And if you will listen to your inner teacher, the only thing that will cause the inner teacher to relax is unconditional love and acceptance. So, yeah, I feel like by feeling for your own relaxation, like you definitely find your way onto that journey of unconditional love and acceptance. Yeah. So Andrea says, I want to work on remembering to ask, is that true in the moment of suffering instead of sinking into suffering? I think that is a great goal, um, and an awesome intention as far as like, I want to suffer less. I want to abbreviate my suffering as often as possible. Um, and that's where again I think there's like two sides of this practice. There's the, while it's happening, we do the best we can do in that moment. And if the best we can do is to suffer in misery, then that's what we do, and we do our best to love ourselves anyway. And there's all the rest of the time when you're not suffering, when you are closer to your own inner peace, and you can practice feeling into a peaceful vessel. And you can practice on smaller, simpler, less consequential thoughts. Like I'm sitting here in my morning time, let's say, and I'm journaling, and my body says, I need to pee. I need to pee right now. And my mind says, let me just finish this thought. Let me just finish writing this sentence. And I say, is that true? I should finish this thought that I'm doing instead of answering the call of my body. Is it true that I shouldn't go to the bathroom right away when I feel that I have to? And that felt tense, like making myself hold it, rejecting myself, making myself wait, ignoring myself, belittling my own needs. Like it felt tense to think about making it true that I had to wait. And when I thought, should I answer my body's call? I should answer my body's call as soon as it tells me. Yes, that feels like relaxation. It feels like going with my own flow. It feels like opening up to this dialogue between me and my body. And so there are times when it's easier to practice. And when there's little shoulds, like, oh, I should see what he wants to do for dinner. Is that true? Should you? You know? Like, versus I'm suffering and I should feel full of light and love all the time. I shouldn't make myself suffer. Like, when you're in the middle of that, that's going to be a difficult time to try to get some of that emotional distance where you can see what's true and what's not true, because the process requires stillness. So if you're suffering, if your vessel is stressed out to the max, if it's like your heart is pounding or whatever, stillness is gonna, it's like your body's filled with adrenaline, you're in fight or flight mode. It's not the time for stillness, or it's gonna be more difficult. But like if you can practice every morning feeling into, I am loved. Is that true? It relaxes me. I am good. Is that true? It takes pressure off my shoulders. Yeah, yeah, that's true. That feels true. So practice when it's easy to practice. Connect to a calm body when it's easy to connect with a calm body. And we don't have to remember that, this is my recipe. Like when this happens, then I'm supposed to do this. We don't have to remember that. If we've been practicing connecting with our calm body, you'll notice it immediately that like my shoulders are tense and my neck is tight and like I'm speaking louder than I normally do and my brow is furrowed and like you have all these sensations all over you that like I never have these. So like what is this? It was crazy like how I like just the sensation of this is not what my body normally feels like. And then that's what woke me up to because I don't feel good right now. And if I don't feel good right now, then that must mean that there's something that's not true. Is this true? Is this so like it wasn't even like remembering to ask the question. It was simply being in tune with what my body feels like moment to moment to moment to moment and recognizing when I've gone from relaxed and peaceful into an inner war zone. And when the inner war zone presents itself, whenever I wake up to how uncomfortable I feel, then I can ask, is it true? And it'll be easy to know that it's not because I feel so rotten. At least some part of what I'm thinking is not because I feel so rotten. So I think it's like twofold. I think there's definitely work that we can try to do while we're suffering, but there's also a lot of little moments throughout the day, little decisions that we make without ever even thinking about the assumptions of why we're making that decision. So it's like almost easier to start with the thoughts that you think while you're calm, because I guarantee you're still full of shit while you're calm a lot of the times. Like the thought of like, I should check with him and see what he wants for dinner. Why? Can you go inside your body and can you feel for yourself what you want for dinner? Can you trust that what you want for dinner is in the highest good of the all? Can you trust that your impulse and your instinct is acting in accordance with divine timing? Like my favorite thing, Dolly used to ask me that all the time, what do you want for dinner? And anytime I would say, I don't know, what do you want? She's like, I don't care, whatever you want. And it would always be on me to make a decision. But like my favorite times are when she's like, do you know what sounds good to me? This. And she'll say it, and it has been forever since I thought about it. And in the second she says it, my body just goes, oh my God, yes, please make that. Let's have that for supper. And so it's like there's practicing ground that's like, if you're learning to swim and you're in the baby pool or the shallow end or whatever, like you can still practice swimming and you can put your feet on the floor and you can kind of be like, okay, that's enough questioning my thoughts for now. Like I'm just going to go back to what I'm doing. But like if you even practiced, I'm going to try at least once a day to ask myself about something that I'm thinking in that moment, is it true? It doesn't even have to be something where you're noticing that you're suffering over it. Um, because unfortunately, I think a lot of people have a really high pain tolerance. And I do say, unfortunately, I have a really low pain tolerance and it makes me heal really fast because I really, really, really hate being in pain. But um, yeah, I think we tell ourselves all kinds of stories that only create teeny little bits of suffering and that we barely even notice that they're making us suffer. So I would say start with those where it doesn't feel charged, it doesn't feel dangerous. I don't feel like I need to, I mean, if at the end of it it is true, I can still call him and ask him what he wants for dinner, like nothing's going on here, nothing serious. But that there are plenty of opportunities in a day to question those kinds of little thoughts and to practice tuning in to like, "Ooh, my body feels so relaxed in this moment. Oh, I'm just going to sit with it for a second. Just feel like how empty of tension my shoulders are. Oh, my root is relaxed. My jaw is relaxed. My temples are relaxed. Oh, this feels so good." What's the point of this? What's, you know, am I trying to accomplish something? Am I trying to achieve something? No. I caught myself being in peace. And so instead of just running on with my day, I'm just going to extend. this moment of peace. I'm going to grant myself access to it for another couple breaths. In this moment of pure peace and relaxation, I'm going to test a truth. I'm meant to live in peace. And it relaxes me even more. Practice when it's easy. And when you're in resistance, if you can drop your resistance towards being in resistance, you're releasing resistance. That means that if you're worried or angry about something that somebody said, you're mad that they said that to you, for example, you might not be able to stop being mad, but you can do yourself a favor and not be mad at yourself for being mad. You can drop the resistance towards being in resistance. Bring some of that Pisces unconditional love and acceptance to your anger, because divine timing brings all things in perfect time. And being mad is never off schedule. You know, feeling negative emotions is never off schedule. It's always right on time. And when we wake up out of the suffering and we find our own inner peace, that'll be right on time too. All the different layers that we ever gain access to. You know, I don't think it happens all at once, because we can't shift more than just one belief at a time. You know, like I can't fix my beliefs. I have to pick one. I have to pick. I should call him to see what he wants for supper. I can work with that. I can use that. I should do that. Just if you state it that way, if you say I should, the very good sign that you're believing it to be true. But is it true? Just because we believe it to be true does not make it true. Also, I think I feel good about this as far as like wrapping this up for today. Before I do, though, I wanted to share a little announcement that we have 2 free Zoom events coming up for anyone who wants to join. These are completely open to the public. So if you want to come, if you want to invite other people, by all means, please do. The first one is actually tomorrow on August 20th. So if you're on the recording, it's happening on August 20th, which is a Saturday. And I believe we have that starting at 11 a.m. Central Time. And the one tomorrow is a channeled guided meditation for, maybe Maddie can, well, no, I think I have it right here. Let me see. There were 3 energies that there we are. Okay, so regardless of what comes through, this channeled guided meditation will leave us feeling grounded, connected, and self-compassionate, which I feel like is so perfect for where we are right now with these intense energies and the Virgo new moon coming up, as far as self-compassion and grounding ourselves into the here and now, into our body, into our relationship with our body and our energy. Yes, I'm very much looking forward to that. That is tomorrow, August 20th. Thank you, Maddie. There is the link. I do think it makes you like join the meetup group, but that is free. And then it'll let you RSVP to the event, the Zoom event, where you'll be able to click on the Zoom link to actually join that and come hang out with us tomorrow. This second free event that we have coming up is on August 30th. And that one is a little bit different. That one is, I have been having so much fun doing the work of Byron Katie on myself and practicing it with others. And basically, I wanted more. I want to do more work. I want to help other people learn how to do the work. I want to help other people learn how to ask themselves, is it true? So this is also a free event. also on the meetup group. And this one is on a Tuesday, August 30th. And I believe it also starts at 11 a.m. Central Time. Again, free to anyone. Invite your friends if you have somebody that you think would enjoy it. Both events, actually, I can't say that. I don't know that that's true about both of them. For sure, the second one, the coaching yourself, the process of self inquiry, that one will be recorded and on the YouTube channel at some point. The guided meditation, I'm not for sure if that one is going to be. We'll see. So, yeah, if you can make it for those in person events and come and hang out with us, bring your questions. If you want to just be a fly on the wall and hang out and observe, you sure can. I'm guessing that there will be time for discussion, at least a little bit at both. Um, so, yeah, if you want to come and connect with us, by all means, we would love to have you. Not required though, but if that's fun, if that feels like that's going to be relaxing and fun for your true nature, then by all means, see if you can fit us into your schedule. We would love to have you. Let's see if there's anything else. I think that's it. Thank you so much for joining me in this space, for sharing your energy with me and others. Thank you for every moment of introspection and healing that you do for yourself. I hope you know that it chips away at the healing of the whole planet. That when one of us lightens our load, the load is lighter for the collective. These spaces that I host are here for any of you who are interested in deepening your connection with like-hearted souls that are doing what they can to live from their true nature. And if that's you, we would love to have you come and play with us. And if it's not, that's okay. Divine timing delivers all things in perfect time. I believe it's true. But until next time, dear friends, you take such good care of yourselves. And so will I. Okay. Okay, bye.